What's good, everybody? This is CreamSpinachYo, and I'm bringing you episode 2 of Math Science and Modern Warfare 3. And this episode is going to be a continuation of the previous episode about multiple dimensions, and we're going to be talking about time travel, because they do go hand in hand, believe it or not. So, to start off, Einstein developed a theory of relativity, and in that theory, it does not explicitly say that you can't time travel. It seems really weird to have the idea that we can go back in time because we observe time as having kind of a forward direction, and a lot of physicists call this direction the arrow of time. And so you can think about it like this: you can remember the past, but not the future, obviously. And then just to give a basic example of this, you can't unscramble an egg. If you're making scrambled eggs, right, you break the eggs, put it in the pan, and then you scramble it, you can't unscramble it. It doesn't really make sense. Another example, mixing chocolate syrup into milk. You can clearly see that the syrup mixes into the milk. If you run it backward in your head, it's not going to work the other way around. Like, it doesn't make sense for it to separate and kind of extrapolate on each other. And so there's a reason why we cannot unscramble the egg or cannot separate the chocolate syrup and the milk, and that's due to the law of entropy. And basically, the law of entropy states that things tend to move from an orderly state to a more disorderly state. And so you can imagine, by trying to unscramble that egg, you think, oh, I'm going to unscramble the egg's going to go back to normal, and it's going to move from disorder to order. But in actuality, while you're trying to unscramble that egg, you're going to expel so much energy and heat that in turn the universe will be a more disorderly state than when you started to unscramble the egg. And so the cool thing that theory of relativity does for us is that under extreme conditions of gravity, kind of like the conditions in a black hole, the theory of relativity shows that the arrow of time can bend. And what this allows us to do is it allows time to bend back on itself. And so what happens is, like let's say I'm going off to work in my car, and I leave for work, I get to work, but when I arrive at work, I actually go back to where I started because the arrow of time is bending back on itself. So you just keep going in this endless loop, and it's pretty crazy, and it also has some crazy consequences in the form of paradoxes. I'm sure many of you have heard of something called the grandfather paradox. And so what this is, if you haven't heard of it, is that suppose you go back in time and prevent your grandparents from meeting, thus preventing your existence, right? Because they never met and they never had you. And so you stop yourself from being born, but you also existed in the future in order to go back in time to stop them from meeting. So it's a big paradox. And physicists they're struggling with this. And they have developed 3 ways that nature can possibly stop these paradoxes. And basically, this idea is that nature will always supply self-consistent solutions to prevent paradoxes from occurring. And so there's 3 ways that this can happen. 1, time travel is just impossible. It just can't be done. So that clearly prevents paradoxes because you don't have the ability to go back in time. And the second way is if you go back in time, that instead of appearing in your dimension, you actually are in a different dimension. So you cannot screw up your own universe that you are familiar with. So you prevent paradoxes that way. And then the third one, let's just assume that time travel is possible, that you can go back in time. But what happens is you cannot change the events. Nature prevents you from changing the events. And so you can imagine this like, let's say, imagine the grandfather paradox again. Let's say you try to go back in time and prevent your grandparents from meeting, preventing your existence. What's going to happen is that no matter how hard you try, nature's not going to allow you to prevent that meeting. So you're going to be born no matter what. And how I think of this is kind of, if you ever watched Heroes before it turned to utter crap after season 2, there's an episode called String Theory in the first season in the apartment in Brooklyn, and you can see all these strings, just lines of strings everywhere as heroes trying to figure out the storyline. And basically, you can imagine going back and forth like this. You can go back in that string, but it's going to happen no matter what. Now, going backwards in time is completely different than going forward in time. book, obviously. But going forward in time is super, super easy. We're doing this right now, naturally. But with the theory of relativity, the faster you move in space, time will slow down to you in reference to everyone else. And so, if you think I'm talking crazy, I'm not. It's actually been confirmed by experiments. Scientists have actually sent clocks into space, and because the shuttles are traveling at such a fast speed, the clocks actually tick very, very much, not much slowly, but they tick at a rate that's slower than normal clocks on Earth. Now, this rate is ridiculously small, but nevertheless, it's still something. And so, if you want to learn more about that, the technical term is time dilation. Now, there are also much easier ways to go to the future. If you go travel in space near the speed of light, then your clock will tick much slower. But the clocks on Earth will tick at the same rate as they always normally. So, if you travel really fast at the speed of light and go for a long distance, when you get back to Earth, you will only have aged for however long your clock was ticking, and when it was ticking at a slower rate. But Earth, since the clock was ticking at a normal rate, it's aged a lot more. And so, just for a simple calculation as an example, let's say you want to go 500 years in the future, and what will happen is you need to travel at 99.9% of the speed of light for 7 years. And this calculation is quite easy. If you just Google it, you can do it. But what will happen is you will age 7 years. Your clock will have aged 7 years, but the clocks on Earth, taking at that normal rate, will age 500 years. So you can go 500 years into the future while only aging 7 years. The problem with time travel, though, is that you require a ridiculous amount of energy. And because, as the faster you go, as you approach the speed of light, the heavier you become. And this is just an extrapolation of Einstein's famous equation, E equals mc squared. And so, my thoughts on time travel, yes, on forward, yeah, you can do it forward, obviously. It's pretty clear. Backwards, I think it is possible, but what will happen is you will go into a different dimension. And this different dimension has nothing to do with our own dimension. It's just a parallel dimension, and you can't screw up any other timelines. Thanks for watching. This is all I have for this episode. I do have a Twitter. Feel free to follow me at CreamSpinachYo. If you like this video, click the like button. If you like the videos that are being posted, click subscribe, and you'll see them every time. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.